Okay, so let's talk about this guy, Arav. If you just looked at his life from the outside, you'd think he had it all. Success, respect, total control. He was the master of his own universe. But under all that perfection, something was starting to go missing.
The very first clue wasn't some huge disaster. No, it was something quiet, almost unbelievable. He completely forgot his own birthday. And I don't just mean the date, I mean the whole feeling of it, the joy, the memories. It was like it all just evaporated, leaving this weird, empty space where a piece of his life used to be.
All right, so section 1, a man starts disappearing. This is where we see the perfect life and this growing void right in the middle of it. Picture this, Arav standing in his apartment on the 27th floor, looking out at a life that anyone would envy. He's got the career, he's decisive, he's in charge. But he feels this incredible distance from it all, almost like he's just watching a movie about somebody else.
And so, yeah, he just kind of ignored the signs. Music just became background noise. He'd start books but never finish them. Those calls to his mom, he'd put them off and then put them off again. It was so much easier to just call it stress, right? The price you pay for success. It was easier than admitting that the very threads connecting him to his own life were starting to snap.
And then this really strange thing happens. He's in an elevator, and this woman he's never seen before in his life just looks at him and says it, plain as day, "You're disappearing." And she says it like it's a fact, like she's telling him the time. And the craziest part? Deep down, he knows she's right.
That night, of course, he can't sleep. He takes out a notebook and writes down just one question. A question that suddenly feels more real than his entire career, more real than all his achievements. In the face of that terrifying thought, none of the other stuff mattered.
Okay, on to section 2, cracks in a perfect life. This is where reality really starts to come apart at the seams. Arav does what he always does, he throws himself into his work. But that world he built, the one based on logic and control, it's starting to crumble.
And things escalate fast. I mean, just look at this timeline. In the morning, it's a small memory lapse. He's in his office and for a second has no idea why. By afternoon, he's in a huge presentation and the words just disappear. By night, things get completely unexplainable. His entire world is unraveling, hour by hour. So he finds the mysterious woman again. He has to know what she meant by disappearing. And her reply, man, it's haunting. She tells him it's not about what he's losing, it's about what he's becoming. A hollow man, full of accomplishments, but totally empty inside.
And this slide right here, this gets to the absolute core of the problem. His question, when did I stop feeling alive? Well, he gets an answer written in his own notebook by someone who wasn't there. And it says, the day you chose success over yourself. It wasn't a slow fade, it was a choice. All right, section 3, the promise he broke. This whole mystery is forcing Arav to look back, to dig up a memory and a person he worked so hard to bury. See, it's not just about him anymore. It's about who he left behind on his climb to the top.
A new line appears in that strange book he found, and it points him straight to the truth. It wasn't just that he lost a part of himself. He actually left a whole person behind. And he's forced to remember Mira, a woman from his past who believed life was meant to be felt, not just conquered and controlled.
This all leads to a complete breakdown. He's in a meeting, and suddenly the sound of people laughing turns twisted and cruel in his ears. He runs to the bathroom, his vision is a blur, and then, for one terrifying second, he moves, but his reflection doesn't. It just stays there, staring at him. And right in the middle of this spiral, when he's feeling totally alone, totally lost, he gets one phone call from a number he doesn't recognize. And that one call is about to change everything. The voice on the phone says a name he hasn't heard in years, Mira. And just like that, the past he tried so desperately to outrun has just slammed back into his present. The consequences of his choices are no longer a hazy memory, they're an emergency. So that brings us to section 4, the choice to return. He's now being forced to confront the consequences, head on. That call leads him to a hospital, a place where his job title and his ambition mean absolutely nothing. He has to finally face the life and the person he abandoned. And what Mira says to him, wow, it just cuts right through all the excuses he's been telling himself for years. He thought his job was to be there for the big emergencies, but she tells him the simple, devastating truth. Real connection is for the small,
ordinary moments he completely missed.
So he finally confronts the mysterious woman again, demanding to know who or what she really is. And she tells him, she's not a person. She's a manifestation of everything he pushed down and forgot. His unfinished life, his abandoned promises. She is, literally, the ghost of his own authentic self.
And she gives him the final, unavoidable choice. You can have success, or you can have your soul, but you can't have both. He can either keep fading away into this empty, successful life, or he can choose to come back to himself, to feeling, to the man he was always supposed to be.
And what does he do? In one single, quiet action, Arav makes his choice. There's no big drama, no speech. He just lets it go. He lets go of the career that both defined and nearly destroyed him.
And that brings us to our last section. A man finally arrives. He starts the long process of reclaiming a life of meaning. And this isn't about going backward. No, this is about starting over from a place of real truth. As you can see from this chart, he basically trades his old life, which was 100% ambition, for a new life built entirely on balance. He stops building his world on achievements and starts building it on connection, finding peace in the small things like teaching or just taking a walk and actually listening. You know, the really interesting thing is what happened to the woman from the elevator. The more he reconnected with who he really was, the more she just faded away. Her job was done. She was never some enemy he had to defeat. She was just a guide to lead him back home to himself.
This last exchange really says it all. He finally understands. It wasn't about returning to some person he used to be. It was about showing up for the very first time as a whole, present person who gets what actually matters.
So Arav's story ends there. But it leaves us with this one last, pretty powerful question. It kind of forces us to look at our own lives, our own ambitions, and ask ourselves, in this whole chase for success, what promises did we make to ourselves? And are we still keeping them?